Hello and welcome back to our SolidWorks Mastery series. In this lecture, we are going to start how to use a edge flange, and I will show you how to use edge flange, and we will create some random part here. So, in this previous lecture, we draw a rectangle of random dimensions. Let's say I give the dimension of 100 into 120. So, this rectangle has been drawn. You see here. Now I by going to sheet metal, clicking on base flange and giving thickness of 1 mm, I'm clicking on check and pressing enter. You see we have created a sheet. To now you see all other tools have been activated other than the no bends and z bends. So we will in this lecture we will start by the edge flange. By clicking on the edge flange, you see this a dialog box pops up in the left, and you see it is asking for the flange parameters. And the demonstration icon shows that we have to select the edge. Edge flange icon shows that it makes the edges of the sheet go in the any direction we want. So let's say I click this, and you see now I just let's say randomly clicks on second point. Now we have this. I click on the other and the other and the other fourth. Now you see something like this has been previewed here. So now we will study what are the different things in the dialog box. Currently the radius is basically using as a default radius. By unchecking the use default radius and typing here to you just see here that this radius will be reduced. Let's say I type here 2, you see this radius has been reduced to 2 mm. And below here is the gap between the sheets. So you see this gap 1 and 2h, and the gap between them is basically this gap. Let's say if I change this to zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.5, you see the gap has been reduced. Let's say 0.1. Now this is the gap. So now you see the gap between them is now 0.1. And the angle here shows that if you want this angle to be inward, if you want this sheet to be outward, then you see if I increase the angle, everything is now going inward like a draft. So by keeping the distance between them 0.1. So again, let's say if I go backward, and by going backward you see here now it is opening. So you see the distance between has been increased, and you see here now we cannot change the gap between them, because if we go outward the distance obviously increase between them. So we can also make this angle by selecting the plane. Let's say I click the right plane here. No face, sorry, the face must be selected here. So currently there is no face else, so it cannot be selected. So let's say I gave the dimension of 80 degree here. Now you see there are in the flange length, that is how much we want it to be increased. By clicking on front view, we see here it is currently 40.35. If I change this to 30, let's just look at the height. Now you see it has been reduced. We can also just drag on mouse and go up. You see then it is automatically go up and down. So there are two ways to measure the length. That is from bottom to top, and second is after the radius ends to the top. You see here currently it's selected that the length will be from the bottom of the radius to the edge. And the second option here is the inner visual sharp, which says that after the radius has ended, the length will be counted. So you see here if I click this and I click this, you see there is a minor difference. If I zoom in and now I will select this, the length will be increased. You see overall length is 29, but you see there is a difference. So that's what it means. And lastly, there is a major thing, that is flange position. That is, let's say I have selected this bottom edge. Now the radius we want it. We should the radius cut the sheet? Should the radius exceed the sheet? Should the radius be parallel to the sheet? So there are five options basically. Currently four are active. First one selected here is that the Outer flange length will be perpendicular to the edge selected. So it means the material inside. Second option says the material is outside, but the radius from the point where radius starts, the length material will be there. And the third point shows that the bend is also outside. And the last point shows that the like let's may just show you the demonstration here. If you click material outside to see it has been dragged outside. If I select third point, that radius is also outside now. But if select this point, let me just give here 90, and I'm checking this, and I'm checking this too for the better understanding by going to front plane now. Okay, so you see in the first you see the material is all inside, a sheet is now being cut. In the second you see the bend is currently inside, but this material part, this rectangular portion here, is the collinear from this line. Third is bend is also outside. Fourth you see here is that this point, center point of the radius, is coincident to this point. You see currently this both here is being same. And the lastly, this means we can give it the angles. If we change the angle, you see here currently the radius is also being changed. But if I select this point, the radius will be same and the only upper portion is moving. But if I select this, you see the bend is also being increased. So that's the difference between it. So there is options as offset. Let's say by clicking on offset, you see, and the offset length, let's say 5. You see, I have selected this line. If I select also this, you see this is here. But if I click on offset, this shows that the radius is this point of radius is basically 5 mm offset from the edge selected. So this is what it means. And lastly, there is the custom band allowance. In the custom band allowance, you see if I select multiple lines, you see here there is a now allowance here. If I increase this value, so custom relief type, you see currently the custom relief here is rectangular. So if I change this to a tier, you see now you will see at the bottom that there will be a tier, and if we click on, usually it is used as a rectangle. So it is not a good practice to change this. So we must uncheck this by going to 0.5 and checking this and making something like this. So you see something like this has been created with the help of Edge Flange in the SOLIDWORKS environment. So that's all for today's lecture. Thank you so much for watching this video.